I love anticipating that moment. Boom. Where everything just comes into alignment, and with the click and the click and the click, we're live. And I remember listening to other podcasters, and they would have that moment. I'm like, oh, one day when I grow up, I want to do that. And here we are. Here we are in amazing Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where the weather outside is beginning to feel frosty. We're so close to December, days away from December and the end of an era. The end of an era, 2023. That wasn't even a possibility for a heartbeat in time. Do you remember that heartbeat when the world stood still and we weren't sure if we would be here in 2023 when the lockdowns happened?
Oh yeah. I started having my word of 2023.
Hmm. Yeah.
And next year is
So
2020
much.
for me.
Ooh. Wow. 2024 me. I love that. That
And
is
I mean that in reference
powerful.
to self-care, not about being greedy. It's about the self-care. What can I do for me to love and appreciate myself?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that we universally decided to make a radical shift and change in consciousness, because we radically decided as a consciousness to change
Hmm.
radically. We didn't want that anymore. And that's where some of the biggest transitions come when we're talking about what we no longer want in our lives. And it happens economically, it happens politically, it happens in ways that we wonder and we wonder and we wonder, and then we decide, okay, this can no longer stay the same. This must change. And when we leave one relationship in our life, well, let's call it north, and we fly to another, let's call it south, we're following our migratory instincts. We know that there is something else out there. And we instinctively know that we want to change long before we change. So when you think back on your life, in your most recent big shift, do you think you knew in advance that something didn't feel good anymore?
I think we all go through something where my job's not suiting me, my relationship's not suiting me, where I live doesn't suit me. I know I deserve better, I want more. And we all start to go, what can I do to change? What do I need to do? And for me, there was so many things I looked at, but then it was how? And it was really, as you can tell, the picture that I have right there is of my sister. She passed away. It'll be coming up 10 years in January. And that was the emotional impact I needed to change my life, my career, seeing the things that were unacceptable, things that I was allowing in my life, from jobs to, um, time off, and what was I was willing to work so hard all these days in a row, endless hours, but then to have a company basically shut its doors and lay everybody off, where you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and then it's like, what am I supposed to do? So I was looking for a change. And when you put that in your mind that I'm ready to change, I want to change, how do I change? Whatever it is, the universe, spirit, God, whatever you feel, whatever you believe in, is going to present things to you. And are you going to be willing and open and able to take that? And so, on one respect, a career kind of came in front of me, and I actually said no at the beginning. And it wasn't until a year
Mm.
later that all of a sudden the career I chose in massage therapy didn't happen because I had car accidents, which caused some problems. And then the company I was working for closed down. And I was just like, okay, there's more and more being pushed at me to go this other direction that I was like, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. Until I said, I've got to try this. I gotta figure it out. And now 7 years later, I'm in a whole new career where I get to actually be of service to people in many, many different ways, to helping them connect to, you know, their own traumas, and wrapping around, I would say, like a financial wrapper, but it goes way beyond that. And then even in my own personal life changes and relationships and stuff like that, where I realized I deserve better than what I'm in, but why am I allowing myself to stay in something that's not serving me? And it's easy to say it, but it's hard to just go, okay, I'm going to do this. I'd rather be alone than be with this person who's, you know, not pulling, I would say, pulling their weight. I'm driving all these long distances, they're not coming to see me, or it's always I have to go there, I'm always spending my money, and all of these things that'll happen, and things that go through our head. And I realized i I needed to treat myself better, before I can be better in other areas. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, makes complete sense. Complete sense, because we enter those transitionatory spaces in our life where we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, everything, everything. You just want to kick the entire world to the curb. Everything, because everything begins to feel false. And then there's the false advertising, the lie that we have been telling people for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. But I thought you were happy, Mom. I was happy being a mom, but that's it. Everything else
Hmm.
wasn't me. It wasn't me. And those radical changes can be massively challenging, because we end up, it's the universe's way of ushering in change, whether it's our finances that fall apart. We have to rebuild them, or our relationships, or our career. And before we fully commit to change, we vacillate back and forth. Oh, it's not that bad. At least I've got a relationship.
Hmm.
I've got a job. I've got a job, because we're taught to be grateful.
Yeah.
We're taught to be grateful. And it's a good practice to be grateful. But when we are justifying unjust relationships, so dangerous.
Hmm.
So dangerous.
And it's interesting you say, with jobs and stuff, yes, be grateful that we have a job, but within that job, should we allow our bosses to yell at us, or a coworker to be rude to us, or say things? And we've come to almost a society where we don't know whose toes we're stepping on. We got to walk on eggshells. And at a time, it's like, if we're just a decent human being to say, hey, you know what, you're on speakerphone, it really actually distracts me. Is there a way that, maybe you could close your door, or turn down the volume a little bit, or wear headphones? I would really appreciate that. And I'm actually reading a book on positive and polite confrontation. Now, the word confrontation
Mm.
is very hard for a lot of people because it's like, I don't like confrontation. I don't. Very much so. I don't like people thinking poorly about me. I don't want to be judged and all of these things. And then all of a sudden it's like confidence gets depleted and my self worth goes down. But that's also going to happen if you don't confront the situation that bothers you. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but it's just like, hey, it's come to my awareness that this is actually really bothering me. Can we work something out so that we can have a mutual solution? And that's kind of like in everything.
Oh my goodness, that just falls into place with everything, because we've got some family celebrations coming up, and there is that delightful dish that Aunt Mary makes every year that you don't like, but Aunt Mary is like, no, come on, Kelly, it's your favorite.
Yeah. To say,
And
I'm
Aunt
sorry.
Mary may have some cognitive, right? Aunt Mary may cognitively really believe that you like it.
Yeah. And then we don't want to hurt their feelings. But
Mhm.
subconsciously and psychologically, we're actually stripping away our authentic being by being, I hate to say it, bullied into doing something we don't want to do. And surprisingly, it knocks down our self-confidence. It knocks down our self-worth little bit by little bit, and then we do avoiding, which is not healthy. And it's all of these things I'm realizing, like we do it with our finances. We do it with our, healthier eating. I don't want to say dieting because I hate the word dieting. It's like I hate budgeting. But there are certain things we need
Yeah.
to change. And it doesn't have to be an
Mhm.
all or nothing. And a lot of us, and I'm realizing society too, is some of us are just all or nothing. I either have to be all in, can't eat, I just have to eat salads, or I can't go out and have fun and I've got to save all my money. No, but if you just made daily choices and then daily disciplines and then daily wins, your self confidence and your self worth starts to stack upon each other. And you start to become stronger mentally, stronger physically, stronger spiritually. Um, all of that then starts to encompass, and you start to be able to stand taller and be taller and feel better about yourself just by small little things. And it can be as simple as drinking more water a day. you know, if anybody ever saw the Biggest Loser or way back when with Chris Powell, I saw an episode with Chris Powell and Heidi Powell with Ed Milet, and it was about the power promise. And what's that power promise that you're making to yourself that you're going to do every day? And the more and more we fall
Yeah.
off of that, that's when we start to strip away who we are.
We make small compensations, and those
Yep.
small compensations become collaborative catastrophes. And this morning, when I was trying to find the word, I called my dear, 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 dear constant. I've got a few constants in my life. They're the people that will answer the phone. They're my North Stars. And I said, I'm looking for a word. It was like charades. And I said, when when we are addicts and we decide that we're going to start using drugs again, there's a period before the decision where we begin to contemplate doing the nasty. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, what's that called? Relapse. I'm like, that's it, relapse. I couldn't remember what it was.
Yep. Start
And
to justify.
it's that space where, yeah, we just start to make small concessions. I'm just gonna, well, and we're doing it so much in the upcoming season, right? Well, it's Christmas. I always put on that extra 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah. But what about this Christmas
Hmm.
going in, going, I'm going to have the healthiest Christmas ever. I'm going to go through Christmas
Yeah.
and, you know, choose, not limit, choose less or choose more of something that's
Yes.
going to serve me better. You know what? Maybe I won't make it about the presents this year. Maybe I'll make it about an experience for the family. We're going to play board games, this, that, whatever it is. it's actually time to create new traditions, whatever it is. It was kind of funny, even
Yes.
just with eating. We are so programmed to eat. Breakfast is a certain food, lunch is a certain food, dinner is a certain food. I was eating a salad. I was actually eating a poke bowl or poke, however you want to call it. I was eating one of those for breakfast the other day, and someone's like, "What are you eating? That's not a breakfast food." And I'm like, "Why not? Why is it not?" It's just that simple. If we just change the perspective on it, and
Mhm.
I'm on a path of just finding who my best version of myself is and allowing myself to fall down, allowing myself to, you know, I don't want to say cheat on meals and stuff like that, because cheating is, it's funny. Listening to this program is like, we don't cheat on tests, we don't cheat on our partners, but we can have cheat meals or we can cheat on our diets.
Oh,
How is that allowed?
I've never resonated with that. I've never, ever, ever resonated with it. The amount of guilt that I would feel, the cheat day became a day of insane self-sacrifice for me.
Yeah, it would
Insane,
just
because
make you
I
feel
knew
miserable.
that this was going, yeah, I'm like, "Oh my god, I feel so bad." And when you feel bad, your body responds.
Oh,
Your body
cortisol, self
responds.
punishment, and all of these things. It's when we become more mindful and intentional of our thought processes, our conversations, the books we read, the things like I went through this personal journey and in my career in finances over the last 7 years of personal growth, and there were times where I'm like, wow, I feel pretty crappy about myself. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on here. Pretty crappy about myself, and I'm not good enough, and man,
Oh,
why
yeah.
can't I be like that person and do this, and why am I not a star player? And then I just realized, you know what? I got to quit trying to be like everybody else. I got to find my uniqueness and then excel on that and know that it's going to be a day to day finding. And that's what's kind of given me
Yeah.
internal peace about who I am and makes my day more manageable and happier. So I think that's what most people are looking for is just more
Yeah.
happiness in their life.
More happy, more happy, and more um, enjoyment. We say to somebody, have a good day. Well, okay, except what if it is not the experience that you are necessarily able to have good? So, I mean, do you say to someone that's going to a funeral, have a good day? That doesn't bounce well. It just
Mm.
doesn't bounce well. And yet we'll say those things. Um, Listening to our words before they come out of our mouth can help so tremendously. So, listening to, what is it I'm going to say to this person? What message do I want to communicate? If this is my opportunity to share space with you, what is it that I want to communicate? And there is the beauty of holding space,
Oh, yeah.
not saying
Um,
anything.
One thing I took, many of you probably who are listening to this have heard of Brendan Burchard, and if not, definitely look him up. This is not a plug to him, but I followed him for quite a while, and he talked about living by 3 words. And I started to adopt that myself and went, love, light, and hope. I want to be the love and provide love for people. I want to give and provide hope to people. And I want to be that light. If someone's having a dark day, to be able to share my light so that they can see their pathway through it, whatever it is, whether it is just a smile or a hello or, a conversation with someone who just seems to not be having a good day. If we can just open up the doors of humanity again, that will change the frequency, the vibrations, if you want to call it, or just the energy around what's going on. And we can allow good things to happen to more people. It's funny how they say bad news travels so quickly. People want to talk about the negative, but why don't we talk about the positives more? Why not focus on a conversation? Be like, what happened? What's so good about today? What was a good thing that happened today? Because and I'm very protective of my mornings. And my wife can contest to this because she used to, as soon as her eyes open, she'd look at me and start asking me all these questions. How's your day? What's going on? What are you having for breakfast? What should we have for dinner? And I'm just like, oh my God, overloaded, overloaded. And I just realized I don't want to start my day going, oh, I have a big busy day. I just, I go into the silence and I get up before she does now so that I can have that moment of what am I grateful for? What am I going to work towards today? I want to set myself up in a peace and loving manner that I can go out into the world and be that person instead of the, oh my God, I woke up late and I've got to do this and plan this and I forgot about this. That just sets me on agitation. And then,
Mm-hmm.
and if that's how you set up yourself in the morning, how is your ride to work? How are you when you get to the office? What's the first thing you say to people? Oh, I'm so tired. I used to say that quite a bit. And I'm just like, no, I'm not tired. I had a pretty good sleep. So reminding myself the good that's
Yeah.
going on in my life. Now, is that the be all end all? Is that easy to do? No, it's constant work, but it's constant work doing the other way. It's like choose your hard. Many
Yeah.
people have seen those memes, choose your hard, and I'm choosing the hard that serves me.
Oh, most definitely. I'm a huge frog eater. So procrastination with me means eat that frog. First thing,
Hmm.
what am I going to challenge? And it's not first thing in the morning. It's after I've had my morning recalibration when I re-enter the world from the beautiful sleep state. Um, After I've had my coffee, after I've had my shower, after I have communed with me. I'm very grateful in the morning to be a part of my own life. And then I decide what is it that I'm going to accomplish today.
Hmm.
And it's a beautiful space when you can take a big project, break it down into small, tangible steps, and accomplish them. Wow. And then
Oh
to
yeah.
celebrate. I celebrate so much. I love celebrating. I love calling a friend and saying, okay, I did it. And they
Yeah.
may not even remember what it was, which is fine. I do. And I want to share it with somebody. Relationships are very important to me. Very. And that is equally important when I'm listening to someone else tell me. And I remember that's a big part of what's important to me now is remembering what's important to those I love.
Yeah. I find sometimes during conversations where, well, what can I say next? And I got to get my point in there. And I've even seen people who kind of actually make that forward kind of jerking motion. And I'm like, is what you have to say more important than what I'm trying to convey right now or what we've been talking about? And it's exciting that the person has something to say, but also recognize when that's happening. It's it's incredible when we actually slow ourselves down. And I say this to my team. You need to slow yourself down before you can speed up. So still do activity, whatever it is you're doing, but you gotta slow down your thought process. The mind is where the control is, and it's me, I now decide. Me, I now decide I'm going to eat healthier. Me, I now decide I'm going to, get a healthier plan. Me, I now decide I'm going to take control of my finances. Me, I now decide I'm going to be a better spouse in my relationship. It's not about my spouse needs to be better. It's like, what am I doing that's also creating the dynamics? We all have the responsibilities within any situation we're in. And sometimes that's a hard realization.
And to find that space in between the two where what would you like for dinner? What would I like for dinner? Those little conversations that are big, because we can become quite resentful
Hmm.
if we are the person that is overdoing any part of our life. And yet, when we are more responsible for our own decisions, we can have that communication between two loving people that says, I'm really having a tough time. Can we talk?
No. Yeah, communication is key. And going in and going, okay, if there is unconditional love, I should be able to speak what is on my mind. Don't point fingers and be going, hey, this is what's coming up. How can we work through this together? I know there's times where my wife's had some uh, conversations she's been wanting to say to me, but she was just so scared that I was going to be upset or this and that. And I went into it just like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Or I kind of knew that was kind of coming. So I'm glad you feel that you love me enough and that I'm going to love you enough to walk through this together. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. There's going to be times when people butt heads because we're human beings. We also think differently and act differently and want different things. But that's okay in a relationship to still want different things, but you do need to communicate in your relationship that what are you striving for together? And that was one of my conversations with my wife is like, what are we doing together? I can go build this business for me, and that's great for more income, this and that, but that's going to mean nothing if it's pulling me away from you and what we want. So you need to have those conversations because it's otherwise you're just going to be passing each other and being like, hey, hey. And that's where the relationship starts to dwindle because you're not working on a common goal together and then checking in with yourself. My wife and I, we do weekly check-ins. Are we okay? Where are things at? I know I've been really busy with work and you've been really busy doing this. Let's do this together, or let's set time to just converse without our phones. Or we point at each other and be like, hey, what's more important, with your phone right now than our conversation? And you know what? Sometimes you have to point out the obvious to each other because sometimes, I hate to say it, we do take each other for granted. That the person's just always going to be there. If you're married now, or you've been together for a few years, no, it still takes
Mhm.
work. Like anything, it takes work. If you want to make it exceptional, you got to work at it.
Always, always. Those relationships that we have sustain us when we're away from each other and we're missing each other. It's a huge indicator. And then when we're back and we're spending more time together, but we're disconnected, it's a huge indicator. And there's a lot of indicators in life. There are those lights on the engine, the ones that say low tire pressure or time to change the oil. We see it on our vehicles and we miss it often in our relationships.
Even our own bodies talk to us when there is something wrong, the aches and pains that come through. Yes, it could have been from the car accident. Okay, I get that, or a slip, trip, and fall or something. But the continuous, maybe the gut problems, maybe the constant headaches, maybe the sore backs, the sore shoulders. What is that really all about? And I know for me, it was my poor eating habits, sitting at a desk, poor posture, all of these things. My body was starting to yell at me, but I wasn't listening. So, how I started to listen is I started to get more quiet. It's like a parent on both ends. When your kids go silent after screaming and doing all this playing, you start to get worried, you know? And as a kid, when your parents yelling at you and all of a sudden they get quiet, you know you're in severe trouble. So it's kind of that same idea is you need to get quiet to listen to what your body's telling you. So what I started to do is, you know, can a person really sit, not have their phone on, not have music on, not have the TV on, and actually sit? And what are your thoughts? And sometimes that is very scary for people. I had a very hard time sitting with myself. I hated my own company. I felt like I always needed to be doing something. And now I'm kind of like, I like to sit and ask myself questions, think some things, but I also tend to avoid a lot of things too. And I throw on a Netflix or something, but it's, this is what we do, you know, but I'm trying to just find a better version of me. And I realized I couldn't figure out meditation for the life of me. It was like I sit there, I'll fall asleep. But now I've started finding some guided meditations where it's 10, 15 minutes. I even actually work up to 20 minutes. But it's the 20 minutes of someone talking me through something. So I am not actually having to focus on my own thoughts, the sounds around me, or anything else. It's just being able to sit in stillness. And when you can do that, you start to open up the doors of possibility. You open up the subconscious. You start to open up the things that you've maybe forgotten that you liked, some dreams and goals that maybe you had as a child. And that's another thing we don't talk about anymore as adults. What are you striving for? What's a goal that you're working on in the next year? How can I help you achieve what you want without expecting anything in return? And what I mean by this, anybody who's listening to this and they go on, you know what, I want a better health plan, I want to feel better, I just want more energy. Okay, great. So then I am not going to ask you out for dinner. Or I'm not going to ask you to go for drinks if maybe you've decided to stop drinking. Let's go for a walk. Or come over to my house and let's cook something healthy together. Instead of, you know what, it's just one piece of cake. Like, can't you start your diet tomorrow? That's actually happened to my wife. Or, you know what, it's just the donuts are in the conference room. You know, what's one? Yeah, that one turns into another, turns into another. It's an addiction, just like anything. You're going to ask someone who's trying to get off drugs, you know what? It's just once. That's what happened to them in the beginning. It was just once that spiraled them. And until you can build up that immunity and that strength, that one more could be the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, we as people, I feel we need to let our circle know what we're wanting and where we need help. Hey guys, I'm decided to get into better health plan, so you might not see me for a little while, or you know, if we are going to do something, can we try and, you know, because then you can also be helping them. Maybe some other people want to do the same thing and they just don't want to do it by themselves, but maybe are too scared to say it to other people because they don't want to be judged, or they just don't want to, oh, you're trying something new again. I've had that too.
Yeah.
But you got to
Yeah.
figure
The
out all of these
frequent
different things.
failures,
Yep.
the frequent failure club, right? It's like the Air Miles Club, but it's the, oh, look at Mary. She's doing that thing again. And we may not say it out loud, but we think it. And the
Mhm.
thought, then the word, and then the action towards that person. If we can see with compassion towards self and others, there is so much beauty in the possibilities. And to talk about what we want more of is beautiful.
I'm all about kind of having this curiosity. What's making you say that? What's making you think like that? What did you just go through? And I'm in an industry where,
Yeah.
yeah, people sometimes don't pick up the phone and don't call me back. And I've left several messages. I'll send text messages. And, that used to frustrate me. I'm like, how can people be so rude? Why can't they just get back to me? Why can't they just tell me, either say, hey, what, not right now. It's not a good time. Call me in 6 months, whatever. But then it was, I realized people go through their own things. They may have just had a fight with their boss. The kids are screaming. They're rushing from this. And you just caught people off guard sometimes. And now it's just like I've got to the point where I'll send one last message and be like, hey, I know you haven't gotten back to me. I've left a couple messages. Just let me know you're okay. Let me know you're still here. Because I had a conversation with someone 3 years after my sister passed away. And it was a phone number I had in my phone, and it's just, hey, I was just reaching out. I think you knew my sister, and I've just got these numbers on my phone. I'm just trying to figure out who's who. And she's like, oh, how is your sister doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to inform you, but she passed away several years ago. And the person went, that's why she never emailed me back. That's why she never called me back. And from that moment, that was a learning moment for me. And I went, I will never get mad at someone now because I don't know what they're going through. And that's just the way it is for me. Yeah, it still can kind of bother me sometimes, but I'm just like, I sit with more peace with that to go, you know what? I don't know what they're going through. And maybe I'll catch them on a better day. That's it.
We rush through so many experiences and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And grief is something that doesn't have a shelf life. It's not an essential oil that loses its scent. It stays until it stays and then it resurfaces. And it's so different for all of us that not one of us has the same experience because we didn't have the same love. So how can we have the same experience of death?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's, we talk about, oh, walk a mile in that other person's shoes, and maybe you don't know how, but maybe you can imagine what it would be like. We talk about imagining what you want your life to be. Imagine, what it would be like just, many people on this call maybe would just like to make an extra $1,000 a month. What would that actually do? Like, what would you actually do with that? And I was having a podcast with about health and the financial health, and I actually said, if you took money out of the equation, how different would your life be? With it, and I'm talking like food wise, how differently would you shop? What about, different services that you would go to, from the massages to acupuncture to holistic doctors and stuff like that? What things would you actually be doing? And we put limitations on ourselves right now where it goes back to that all or nothing. But what if you just listened to a different podcast? What if you just did a little research? What if instead of that extra Netflix series, you watched something else that was just a little bit more on growth? Just imagine what could be different in your life. And it takes time, because you got to where you're at, whatever age you're at, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60. So let's go my age. I'm in my 40s. It took me 40 some years to get where I'm at. The eating habits, the thought processes, and all the environment around me. It's not going to change overnight. So I need to do consistent things on a day-to-day basis to change those things. It's like a New Year's resolution. We usually do it on the 31st, January 1st. But then by January 5th, we forget to start repeating what we're wanting, what we're striving for, what we're working for. If you actually read that every day, it just It's amazing. I've been listening to Earl Nightingale read out Think and Grow Rich, and I've listened to that thing I don't know how many hundreds of times. And still, there's one part where it says, read your dreams and goals out loud before you go to bed and upon rising. And that's the one thing I have not been consistent with. I could do it every morning, occasionally at night, but I haven't been consistent. And in my mind, I'm like, how different would my life be if I actually just did this? So I'm here to figure it out. That's what I'm on. Everything's figure outable. I like that word.
That's a good word. That's a very good word. Figure outable. There are solutions and there are ways that we can reframe our thoughts. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I may not have the finances in my life to be able to travel the world for a year, I am willing to decide where I would like to travel.
Mm-hmm. Or,
That's fun.
even the whole latte factor. If you're a person
Mm.
that gets a coffee from a store every day, but you feel and fear and speak that you don't have the money to do X, Y, or Z, then you need to actually kind of change that perspective and go, okay, well, if I'm getting it was funny, I did this calculation with someone. Like a Starbucks regular coffee is about $3. And if you're doing that every day, 5 days a week, that's that's money. That's a trip. And I know people say, well, I got to have my coffee. I got to have this. But do you? Like, really sit with yourself and ask yourself that. Because, yes, maybe the store makes it better than you at home. But what's important? That coffee that day, or that trip you want to take your spouse on, or the trip you want to take your kids on, or not even the trip, the mortgage payment. And I know that's maybe hitting some people in a spot they don't like to hear about. I've had to do this internal work, and that's why I can speak about it, because I've gone through it and I go through it where I'm like, oh man, I used to eat out quite a bit. And I started tracking my foods because for my business, I get write offs. And I was like, oh my God, I spent that much eating out. And I wasn't thinking about it. I was just doing it. Meeting friends for coffee,
Mhm.
sure. I'll get a coffee and then a donut, maybe a wrap or this and that. And then you don't realize that $3 turns into $11, turns into $15. And then, oh, what about the
Mhm.
you want to take your friend out and you're just that nice person. You're like, you know what? I'll get your coffee. Now it's $20, $25. And I used to do that quite a bit. Not even, I was kind of in zombie mode. I was just drifting with it. I was going with it. I was going with the flow. And you know what? We say that even too much, create the flow. I'm not going with the flow anymore. I'm creating the flow.
Mhm. Yeah. Small changes, minute pebbles of change. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to cut out all the Starbucks cold turkey. But
Right.
how about Monday? How about Monday is the day that you begin changing a pattern in your life? Maybe Monday is the day that you do not purchase anything
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
begin by contemplating what would that look like in your life. Begin with that thought first. It's always the thought. It's that chicken and egg conversation. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The thought.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, the thought is a ripple effect. And everyone here has probably thrown a rock in the water and it goes ploop. But then you see these ripples. They get bigger and bigger and bigger as they go out. That thought is the beginning of that ripple. And the more that thought keeps dripping into the pool of your mind, the ripple effect gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it reaches out to other people. So you have to constantly be thinking about where you're going, what's going on. And I know some people are like, oh, that's too much work. Yeah, it can be. But whether you think it is or whether you think it's not, you're right. I used to think a lot of things were hard, and then now I'm just like, you know what? It's really not that hard. I'll figure it out. Because I trust in myself, and I believe in myself more that I can figure it out. Or I can find someone that will figure it out.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what about that? Then that
Finding
being
that
resourceful.
someone. Finding that someone. And there are so many out there. And there's a beauty in that. And there's also a bit of a challenge in that, because how do you know if the person that you are choosing to share your intimates with is the person that you can trust?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you and I spoke about last week when we got together and I came to your office was, you have my respect. You earn my disrespect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. For the longest time, I used to say, respect is earned, respect is earned. I'm like, no. If we realize that respect is given, that's called human decency. And until you've done something to earn my disrespect, I will respect you. I will open the door. I will listen. I will let you go first in line, maybe. Whatever it is. It's being that respectful person. If that's who you are to your core, then just be that person. But if you take advantage of me, that's my own fault because I've allowed it. And I will only allow it for a very short time. And I saw that somewhere. It's not like I made it up. Like, it's not like I created it. I literally, because I started to read a lot more. I read it somewhere. I saw it on Facebook, whatever it is. But that's just it. If you're on a path of growth and a path of just kind of like, I'm trying to figure out my way and who I am, these things will start coming to where you're like, wow, yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me now. Yeah, that's just who I'm going to be. I do feel the politeness and the etiquette of when I grew up has changed significantly. Just even the basic please and thank yous are not as apparent anymore.
So true. So true. Beautiful words that we read can change and impact our thoughts and the way that we respond to those thoughts. So another beautiful phrase, and I'm changing it because I do put things into the positive perspective. So always remember that once upon a time, in an unguarded moment, you recognized yourself as a friend.
I like that.
Hmm.
You got to be a friend to yourself first
And it was
to be a
written
friend
by
to others.
Elizabeth. It was written by Elizabeth Gilbert. She said, "Never forget that once upon a time." And I like the always remember. When we tell someone not to forget something, it's that, honey,
We're
can you
telling
go to
them
the
to
grocery
forget.
store? Don't forget, don't forget blueberries, and you leave. You're like, oh,
Yep.
remember, remember. The F word was the word that my children were not allowed to speak. Forget. They were allowed to drop the four-letter one. Oh, not a problem. I I never had a problem. I've never ever had a problem with words.
Expression.
Say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean if possible.
Yeah.
Do your best. Do your best. But Befriend yourself, befriend you, and then people will learn to befriend you better. We teach people how to treat us.
That is true. That is true. So if you don't like the way people are treating you, that's a point to learn about yourself. Why is that happening? What are things that we say? Do we not look at people in the eye? Do we look down? Are we like, I know for myself, I used to be shy. I will say I used to be a shy person. I'm more reserved, I guess you could say, but then like, do you look down? Do you not make eye contact? What's your body language? I mean, there's all of these things that we just don't teach in schools,
Mm.
which would make us better adults. I read this book by Jackie Warner. I can't remember the title of it, 10 Things, something, something. It was like, it's not your fault you're fat, but it's your fault if you stay there. So it's not your fault where you're at right now in your life, whether it's your health or your finances, whatever it is, it's not your fault. You've had many environmental, programming, paradigms, all of these different things. But I'm going to say, if you're listening to this call, when you get off this call, you have a choice of where you want to go in your life. And it's going to be a daily, consistent choice. And it's not always going to be easy, but you have the freedom of choice to choose what you want.
Oh, so much power in the minutes and the moments. Those mathematical equations are always really quite shocking when you take the number of minutes in a day and then you multiply the number of minutes in a week and how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. I'm looking forward to continuing to expand the relationships in my life, the ones that are great right now. I truly want to expand upon those and then welcome in new experiences. And then I'll decide which direction to go. But I will not minimize me.
That's very, very important. We always say you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't give from an empty cup.
Mhm.
Give from the overflow. Build yourself up. Build your self esteem up, your self confidence, your self worth. Then you can help others. So you're always appreciated.
Learning to travel light. Um, there's a beautiful visual that is often used with the iceberg and
Mhm.
what we see above the surface and what we see beneath the surface.
Oh, yeah.
And there are so many things that are beneath the surface in all of our lives, things that we don't talk about, things that we don't tell about, the burdens that we carry. So in remembering that we are all carrying burdens, it allows for more compassion between all of us. We're all children that are looking to.
There's so much potential with our own potential. And I'm on a journey and a path of working on becoming the best version of myself without going through that journey and putting myself down through it. We're our own worst critics. We're our own kind of worst devil sometimes. And some of us grew up where we weren't given that positive reinforcement and that positive feedback all the time. And whether it is, and I'm going to say money, finance, health, wealth, relationships, all that kind of stuff. So I like to say, I've kind of even revamped myself. Like, I'm into wealth management, but it's not just about money. It's what is wealth to a person. wealth of health, wealth of finances, wealth of relationships, wealth of just your own spiritualness, your own health. All of these things are encompassing. So, um, and it's, I know a lot of people talk about illness lately, and I saw this at my, it was so cool. I saw this at my chiropractor's office. You take I out of illness and you add we, you get wellness. So we
Yep.
together
Love
collectively can
it,
help the
love it,
wellness
love it,
chain.
love it, love it, love it.
Yep. And I love that too, because that is
Yes.
too, is what we need to do. Nothing should be done by itself. We all need people in our corner. We all need people to feel loved, to be loved. We can still love ourselves, but we still need people in our life. So, and I appreciate the time that I get to spend with you and anybody who's watching. And I'm, like to say, I'm here to serve.
Absolutely. If we can, as a group, in our own special way, because we all have our own group, we have our familia and we have our familiar, we have the people who we check in on and those who check in on us. If we, who would you want to spend more time with? Maybe it's yourself, maybe
Yeah,
it's someone in your family or your familiar already, maybe it's someone new, but we can always expand our happiness. Always.
it's true. I
Yeah.
love it, my friend.
This has been a special joy. I love the magic of Mondays when I get to spend time with sweet friendships. And you are definitely one of those in my life. So thank you from the top of my head down to the bottom of my toes for just great time spent together.
You too.
Yeah.
It's always a joy.
And I made it through the entire experience with a softness in my chest. What a beautiful, beautiful change from yesterday. So, as we move forward in the direction of our dreams, keep on believing in the absolute amazing that is you. And if you change one thing today, let it be your offering to the world.
We all have something to give. We all have value to add.
Yeah.
And the more we find out our own unique traits, our own uniqueness, and we allow the world to see that, the light gets brighter for everybody.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. It's such a simple, simple, simple way of being. So sparkle more,
Mhm.
sprinkle sparkles wherever you go. Just be more of you. The world will adjust.
Mhm. I like that. The world will
The world
adjust.
will adjust. Yeah, the world will adjust. So have a magical rest of your Monday. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we will see you again when the sun rises. So thank you so very, very much for tuning and making my day more special. See you soon.